basically wanted to make this video because it's been really on my mind lately. Hi, my name is Kelly Jo. Welcome to my channel. Let's get into it. So I wanted to make a video that kind of lays out the basic outline for how a person can be skeptical when they're using social media, when they're on the internet, on YouTube, when they're listening to people present facts. If a person is on a search for truth, I hope that this is helpful. I personally don't believe that there are absolute truths. Everything is fluid, changeable. I wanted to make my own video presenting what I believe to be important, observing the world through a skeptical lens. I think it's important to be skeptical when you're out in the world and being presented with information, even within your own home, being presented information. Avoiding appeals to authority. Just because somebody has a platform does not mean that they are the best resource. For example, there's a lot of people on YouTube. There's a lot of people on the internet. Most people these days are on the internet. If they have a blog, or they've written an article, or they have a YouTube channel, or they're just in your Facebook feed, just because they have that platform does not mean that it is indeed a fact. Always seek things out for yourself. If you're presented with information that you're trying to wrap your head around, whether or not you want to implement it into your own personal philosophy, you should go seek out more information on that topic. Taking things at face value when people just present them to you because you trust them, or you like them, or the fact makes sense to you, or it already falls in line with your personal philosophy, doesn't mean that that fact that they've presented is accurate. Pastors, bosses, parents, friends, they may not be as well informed as you would assume. People you trust, if you're in those situations, people that when they present something, it seems like a good idea. Now, of course, we all have those friends whose ideas might not seem good. A friend or somebody in your circle says something about a new product that they like the effects of coffee, and they present statistical information. Say you like coffee, so you don't want to believe that what they said about coffee is true if it was something bad, or you do want to believe it if it was something good. Something coming from one person is not a fact. The whole structure of the scientific community is that research is done and then it's repeatable. If one person finds something to be true, it doesn't make it true. So that's why it's important to seek out more information about things you like, things you don't like, things you believe, things you don't want to believe, that kind of thing. Always check the credentials of the people who claim to be something. Like if somebody claims to be a doctor, you don't know if they're a doctor of neuroscience or of Scientology. That's a big difference. Again, having a platform doesn't make you a reliable source. They might be a reliable source about Scientology, but not about neuroscience. So keep that in mind. Again, liking something or harboring anger towards something or dislike towards something doesn't make it true or false. Confirmation bias is very prevalent, and you probably don't even realize when it's happening, which is why it's important to get in this mindset of skepticism, because when you're presented with information, whether or not it goes with what you already believe, you can determine whether or not those facts are true by avoiding the confirmation bias. Appeals to emotion. Having emotion, I believe, is a good thing, but using that to your advantage to garner a response from people on the internet is kind of skeevy. Say something sad is posted about on Facebook, and the person says in the post that the only way they made it out of that situation was through X, Y, and Z. Does that mean that the only things that can help you out of any bad situation are X, Y, and Z? No. Ad hominim, which is when somebody presenting their argument brings up a point, has no relevance in the conversation, that directly attests to something about the other person that they can't change and that has no correlation to the argument at hand. Eyewitness testimony is not the most reliable source of evidence. It can be convincing, especially if the person is well-spoken and charismatic, but that doesn't mean that it's accurate. So this is on psychologicalscience.org, an article called Myth: Eyewitness Testimony is the Best Kind of Evidence. Just like any other type of evidence, eyewitness testimony can be tainted and distorted and misremembered. You know what I mean? You only thought there were 2 people involved, but there was a 3rd person off to the side that didn't catch your eye. That kind of thing. Or you didn't hear somebody's words correctly. I mishear people talking to me when they're 2 feet away from me. Eyewitness testimony is not a very reliable source of information, of evidence, because our memories are malleable. That's on psychologicalscience.org, and I will link this article down below. As eyewitness testimony fails all the time. So the article also talks about how since 1989, 358 people who were convicted of something and sent to death row have been exonerated, and 71% of those people who were exonerated, it was due to faulty eyewitness testimony. Somebody said that they saw somebody do something, but they remembered things wrong, or they were fed information from outside sources. Just because somebody says that they experienced something a certain way with certain results in a certain situation under these specific conditions doesn't make it truth, and it doesn't make it accurate. So always look into things, always check other people talking about the same thing. Go see for yourself, depending on what it is. So you should also try to look at situations you encounter from as many possible angles. It's impossible to look at things from every possibility, and I don't advise you to try. People with anxiety, or at least me, they will get fixated on something and not be able to move past it because they're looking at all of the different possibilities, and it freezes their cognitive ability. When faced with moral or political quandaries, it is important to think outside of yourself. Put yourself in somebody else's shoes. This life is all we have. This is the only life you have. I don't think that reliance on something is really the answer. If you lean too much on something and then that thing gets taken away, you will fall over. You don't believe that anymore. It might rock you to your core. It did to me. And it's still doing that every now and again. I didn't see myself for what I am when I was a Christian. And I was not a good skeptic either. The only person who should advise you medically is your doctor. Not any doctor. You shouldn't take what somebody says on the internet and apply it directly to your own life without consulting your physician. We are all humans at our core. We are all human beings. We are all living here together. People generally want to feel accepted by their friends, their families, their peers, their co-workers, and when they believe something that is so intrinsically different than the people around them, it can be a scary situation, especially if that's the only community that you have. Everybody wants to be happy and everybody wants to feel safe. To sum up, when information is presented to you, you should seek out information, check the person's credentials, and remember, we're all humans, we all make mistakes. And don't just accept things at face value. Just because you hear something or somebody states a thing doesn't make that thing true or false. Seek out the facts, be skeptical of everything, even if it's something you already believe. Alright, that's gonna be all for today. If you liked this video, feel free to drop a comment below, hit like, hit subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one.